Got 15 minutes? Let's learn a little about designing a landscape lighting system. In this session, we will talk about how to light using the 8 basic lighting techniques and 4 specialty lighting products. We will also learn how to design the lighting of architecture, trees, shrubs, yard art, path and spread lighting, hardscape illumination, and lighting underwater. We'll start with an overview of the 8 basic techniques and 4 functional specialties. The 8 basic lighting techniques are listed here. We'll go through each to provide a better understanding of how they can be used. Downlighting is achieved by placing the light overhead, aimed in a downward direction toward the subject. The high point of light is at the top and diminishes as it moves downward. Moonlighting is a version of downlighting where the light is intentionally positioned behind leaves, branches, or obstructions to create an interesting pattern of shadow and light on a flat, plain surface below. This is most effective when attempting to mask large, uninteresting planes, such as the large driveway in this photograph. Uplighting is the opposite of downlighting, where the light is placed on the ground, aimed up. The light is brightest at the base of the object and reduces and widens as it rises. In the trees illustrated here, light is delivered to the underside of the main branches and the underside of the leaf canopy. Cross-lighting uses multiple uplights. With one uplight, the surface is somewhat flat. By using more than one light source, depth and three-dimensionality can be expressed, adding a more complete view of the object illuminated. Cross-lighting is often used on a feature piece or plant in the landscape. Mirror lighting is created when an object near a body of water is illuminated specifically to reflect in that water. This illuminated duplicity should be planned for best results. When an uplight is placed very close and often at a severe angle to a highly textured surface, it is called grazing. The grazing effect delivers bright dots of light at one side of the texture and exaggerated shadows and dark on the opposite. As you move away from the light source, the light and shadow become more subtle. Shadowing is best realized when an interesting object is positioned in front of a plane surface. The light placed in front of the object paints a larger version on the parallel plane. Look for large, unblemished surfaces and walls to create this technique. A silhouette is delivered when light is placed behind an object with an interesting shape. In this photo, the yellow-green tree is illuminated, but the silhouette of the tree in front is beautifully realized. In addition to the 8 lighting techniques, there are 4 lighting types that serve a more functional task. Each is achieved with a unique lighting fixture type. There is a skill required in implementing these lighting types, but with more specificity than the other techniques. Path lighting is positioned alongside walkways to help in navigation. Path lights offset the light from the center line of the post to throw more light on the sidewalk surface or in a specific direction. Spread lighting can be used for path lighting, but is also used to illuminate the landscape beds where the unit is positioned. The center post runs through the middle of the light source, so lighting is equidistant, delivering a uniform circle of light below. Hardscape lighting is designed specifically for installation in stone fabrications, such as piers, walls, and retainers. It is often placed under the capstone as illustrated in this photo, but can be embedded in the mortar joints almost anywhere with a mounting plate. Hardscape lighting can also be used without the mounting plate on wood surfaces because of its slender design. Popular outdoor living spaces, such as decks, demand lighting to function throughout the evening. Fixtures sized for this architecture are not typically used anywhere else. Low-voltage lighting is not approved for use in bodies of water where a human intends to bathe. Fountains, ponds, and falls can't benefit from good lighting, but watertight construction is required for in-water illumination. Wire connections must be made on dry ground, so longer wire lengths are required. High-quality, rust-resistant, and fully sealed products make this a very specific specialty product. Now that we understand the techniques, we will now implement those in the main areas for landscape lighting: the architecture, trees, shrubs, yard art, path and spread, and decks and steps. We'll start with architectural lighting. As you begin to consider the lighting of a building, first look for architectural elements of the structure that are interesting, different, or that which you may want to call to attention. Perhaps there is interesting stonework or columns. Those unusual points will become intriguing features of nighttime lighting. Define the ends of the building with light. If possible, highlight peaks and dormers, the upward extent of the structure. Changes in elevation and depth can be visually interesting and should also be lit. Note the unusual stepped brickwork on each corner of the small home. Illumination added here creates a unique mix of light and shadow. With architecturally significant homes, such as this historic estate, an overall illumination can work. You will note the almost complete elimination of high points in this lighting design. After those features are illuminated, remember a few additional tips. White structures will require less light. If the building is darker or stone, but includes white trim, especially at peaks and upper trim, lower wattage can be used. The white will reflect well and define the edges. Remember the first rule of landscape lighting: less is more. Now we'll touch on the lighting of plants and trees. A quick rule of thumb to always remember: if the tree or shrub is short and fat, use a wide flood or wide beam light. If the tree is tall and thin, use a spot. This selection of narrow, tall trees are best lit with narrow beam lights. Remember, as the trees get taller, higher lumen levels will be required to reach the top. Medium-sized trees, which represent the largest quantity planted, will use medium width beam spreads. Medium width, about 35 degrees, are the most popular accent lights sold. Wider trees, and especially shrubs, will be illuminated best with wide flood beam spreads. Remember that wider light does not travel as far. As with the other beam angles, larger lumens will be required to reach farther directions. There are many ways to illuminate trees and shrubs. Uplighting and downlight can be used individually and combined. Cross-lighting is also an option. In this image, a high lumen, narrow spot has been used for the 85-foot silver maple at the center, and low lumen levels with medium beam angles have been used for the shorter pear trees. Yard art can be lit with many different techniques. To successfully light art, understand the object and the location. Remember, you can have fun here. Think also about the mood you might want to set. This photo shows a single accent light as uplighting that creates a very angular appearance. Because the snail is fabricated from thin strapped metal, cross-lighting was employed. This gave the piece some depth and dimensionality it would not otherwise have because of the material. Wide moonlighting of minimal light output delivers a very somber, moody, and contemplative setting for this antique bike and bench. Because of the broad, unencumbered side of this residence, the designer was able to play with a small piece of art, turning the 30-inch statue into an 8-foot shadow on the side of the building. Path lighting is used to help people navigate paths and walkways during the dark. It is typically positioned at intersections and changes in directions. It can also be helpful near steps and stairs or anywhere the elevation changes. Spread lighting is usually placed in beds and can often assist in the illumination of paths and walkways. Photometrics provided by the manufacturer will define the extent of the reach of the light. This particular spread light will deliver a 10-foot diameter of light. As you can see from the photometric data, light drops to 0 after a 5-foot radius. Placing 5 of these units along a 70-foot path will provide an ample amount of light. Remember, you do not need to touch the circles of light. The human brain will connect the dots and help the walker transition from one circle to the next. There is no need to overdo path and spread lighting. Find elegant places such as bends in the pathway at corners or near steps, such as these images indicate. Summer or snow, path lighting can help in the nighttime navigation of walkways. Never overdo path lights and never place them equidistant along a walkway. You do not want planes landing in the front yard. We spend many hours on decks. To make these spaces more flexible through the evening, remember to add deck-specific landscape lighting. These are engineered for the size of the material typically used in these constructions. When illuminating steps and stairways outside, remember to place light at the top, bottom, and at any changes in directions or landings. Long lengths may benefit from some additional units as well. Hardscape lighting can add interest and function to stone-constructed aspects of the landscape design. They are also useful on stone walls. Large porches may also be more usable with some lighting. In this image, hardscape lighting has been positioned under the capstone. In-water lighting can immediately elevate a water feature at night. The constant movement is magnified by the light. Remember, shield the light as needed. Remember to aim the light inward at or under the water and not toward the shoreline. Placement underwater plants can also be interesting. Always use in-water rated lighting for these ponds, streams, and waterfalls. With the basic lighting techniques, the key areas of the home to light, and the specialty products explained, the user now has a clear idea on how to employ quality landscape lighting.